Allah.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
Allah.
Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Hayya ala salat. Hayya ala salat. Hayya ala falah. Hayya ala falah. Akbar, Allahu Akbar. La ilaha illallah.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Ahmaduhu wasta'inuhu wastadihi wastaghfiruhu uminu bihi jalla wa ala wa la akfuruhu wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu. As-salahu bil with din al-haq, the religion, the way, the methodology of truth. And this religion known as Islam will rise to its proper position in this world, whether the mushriks like it or not. Aqulu qawli hadha wa astaghfirullah li wa lakum. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Wa man ahsanu ma da'a ila Allah wa amila salihan ala inaini min al-muslimin. Who is better than speech than one who calls men to Allah, work righteous deeds, and says, I am of those who bow in Islam. And you know, there's a hadith that says, I am satisfied with Allah as God, with Islam Adina as the religion, and with Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Says, nor can goodness and evil be equal. Repel evil with that which is better. Then will those between whom and thee was hatred become as though they will be granted such goodness, none but persons. Rahim. Today we're going to, and when it says that means good and evil, they're not nowhere close to each other. But it uses words that it may be between that whom and you were enemies become as though you were best friends indeed. Well, it uses hamim, which in Arabic means warm water. And that means that you may become warm and fuzzy friends. Well, today, I want to mention certain things because about last week, I went to the bank and I parked my van in the parking lot. And after a while, I called the brothers over and I said, man, I can't get in my van. The brothers are there. There's witnesses here, right here. So anyway, now there was a lady watching, trying to get into, was the same kind as mine, and I looked in the van. It was kind of stuff in that. It was different, and maybe I just was a little slow. Something, and I picked it up like, hey, maybe this is her van. You remember that? And not mine. And lo and behold, I'm there, and the door, it opened. Now, but I was getting ready to get in that van, and I can imagine if I got headed to California and all that, and I was on the highway going in between the mountains. And do you remember how slow I was driving coming back? And I'm doing about 10 miles an hour in a fast lane. Just think about this. And one of them big trucks loaded down. They can't stop now because, and they coming around them mountain passes, and all of a sudden they see you, and there's nothing they can do. There you are, right in the way. And the only thing they can use is use a stopgap to stop from killing themselves and everything else, right? In other words, they can't stop. And we always talk about ayats here. Ayats are signs and signals. And believe it or not, that was a big sign for me. That sign said, wait just a minute, just hold it and slow down and take it easy. And in the meantime, some different things began to happen around here. Like we've been talking about bank accounts and everything for a long time. But now people went in certain places and they didn't just take money. They took record books and they took all kind of little things that wouldn't mean nothing to nobody, just steal it, And so they took the keys to a safe deposit box. They took all IDs and everything, and Social Security card. They just took all of that. And I'm not saying that it was my fault, because in moving right there where it's access to everything, that's a tempting thing. And then we come out of here, or we come off the road with boxes that look like donation boxes. And our dear friends, I'm not blaming them, our dear friends, it could be anybody, live next door, right? Tell the truth. And they just got out of the penitentiary. And when they look at that, that might be kind of tempting. Well, the brother's in there and he's packing up money and what have you. And so let's give it a shot. They can't lose nothing because you can walk right in. It's right there. If you got all day, you can look around many days and see certain opportunities. The other thing is, the other night, I was feeling a little funny, so I went down, where I live. Actually, I don't live there. And I was just hanging out with the family, and they was rolling their eyes. Well, what you doing hanging down here? Why you ain't in your spot? And actually, what it was I was feeling a little funny, and I said, well, let me go down and hang out with the crew. And Hadith always talks about, at least part of the day, you should think about death. Because that's one place you're going. So before I laid down, when I went down there, I said, well, I don't want to leave by myself. So I go down there and hang out with them and bother them. Then when I came back, and went to sleep. Now, this is Wednesday night. I said, well, if I wake up in the morning, I'm on a big roll when I went to sleep. I'm saying this, talking to myself, or just mentioning it to myself. I said, now, if I wake up in the morning, I'm on a roll. So that was yesterday morning, and of course, you can see that I woke up. But I began to think about our condition here in Oakland, in D.C., and in Oakland. And I refer to it as dream deferred. Remember our idea, Masjid, business school, D.C., definitely. And in Oakland, they did pretty good too. And as community, we have other communities can't even seem to get a house to pray in or something. But when we came here in, must have been about 89, since then, we done got tons of properties. And we still have 8 of them that we pay taxes on. And we're going to change that situation because there's no sense in paying $10,000 every quarter cash money for taxes. But we'll work that out. What I want to talk about right now is dream deferred, but for what reason? You know, if a dream is deferred, for what reason is it deferred? The ayat, one of our favorite ayats, وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ قَوْلًا مِمَّنْ دَعَا إِلَى اللَّهِ وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا وَقَالَ إِنَّنِي مِنَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. Who is better in speech than the one that calls people to Allah, work righteous deeds, and say, I'm indeed a Muslim. That's what I am. I'm a Muslim. So we go out, we prepare food on a regular basis. And we used to go out with boxes to raise money. And that was a pretty good feeling. But we would go out to different centers and we would give away, you see the food down there. It would be, ain't gonna be none today. I mean, just hold on. Next week we'll be back in shape. But when we came back from feeding people, it was a whole different experience, And so, when we came back from the big program in Baltimore, and we put our stuff in the refrigerator, when we went down there the next day to go back, I think the French toast and some of that kebab meat, right? It was all gone. And we had it set aside. We had just the amount of French toast, and we was going to go over there and unload the people for breakfast. Instead of spending $10 or $15 for breakfast, right? They could just come through the spot and be hooked up. That was supposedly our good deed. Now, when we had chicken and rice and all that, the lines was almost around the corner. 85% of them were Indo-Pakistanis, because that's what type of program it was. So the Indo-Pakistani brother kept trying, that owns a halal place, kept trying to ask us, hey, let me stand here with y'all and pass this out. And we came to a conclusion that they wanted, the ones running the program wanted, and if they saw Negroes in the line, right, passing out the food, they would think his halal joint, providing all them big old one thing. Y'all see the way we do down there sometimes. And so when we came back, we felt, all of us, we felt better than when we went out with boxes just to raise money. Then on top of that, when we popped up that night before going over there, we found that we had just saved some good kebab. I don't know if y'all eat around here a lot, but there's some good kebab that the Iranians make. You know, in Turkey they call it shesh kebab, but this is Iranian kebab to go with rice. Them nice little strips, y'all had some of them strips during Ramadan. It's not only healthy, but it's tasty. So all that was gone, and then the eggs, everything that we would have needed over there, right? Because remember when we ran out of food over there for the breakfast? Everything that we ran out of was exactly what we would have needed to serve them breakfast. Now, we'd have served them dinner the day before. No money. You can't pay no money. It's fi sabilillah. That might be why it feels so good to go out and do it. Then we got back here, and all the stuff that we had for the next morning was gone. So we could hook up, I think we hooked up some French toast and stuff real quick. A little bit of stuff, but it wasn't like we had it hooked up for the next day. So people pay attention. And what we know they pay attention to is, maybe y'all wouldn't remember, but back in about 92, we organized some meetings here, starting over at Howard, and we started having itikafs and meetings together. I'm sure none of y'all might remember. But our biggest itikaf was over at Masjid Muhammad. Does anybody remember that? And itikaf means we stay in the masjid together. And we was working out programs and patterns and things we could do together. And soon as that got started, someone in the group that wears short pants started talking about the leader of the main group we was working with. So they just closed the show down. But I want to tell you the great fear that the immigrant Muslim community had by seeing Negroes working together. They basically went into a panic. And all we was doing was getting together and discussing what we should do. But what we realized was they was in a panic because they knew that if we got our program together, right, that from D.C. all around the country, the Negroes would establish an Islamic program, and it would actually lead, technically, the Islamic movement, which Maulana Maududi predicted back in 71 when he met with our brothers up in New York. And what the Negro didn't recognize then and don't recognize now, that there's a big push for Islam in America. There's a big push for Islam in America because the revolutions of things that are happening, not the revolution like a revolution, but revolving around humanity at this time, is the call for Islam. And this call for Islam has a lot to do with you and I. Because civil rights was one thing, And you notice people try to hijack that, and you see the singers down there, Joan Baez and all of them, they're nice people. But didn't nobody want to see the Negro really managing anything? So over the last decades, there's been a big push. One reason Imam Jamil is in prison and stays in prison, right? And he was moved from Georgia, a state penitentiary, as a state crime right? State crime. Why is he up in Supermax in Colorado? Because if he stayed down there in Georgia, there's a whole movement would evolve around him, from demonstrations, from meetings, from visits he would get every other day in the state of Georgia, right? The point I'm making is, right now, and I'll just go directly to the point. I've always believed in, or liked the Negro to have some authority, or be at the seat of the table. The government knew when I was in Colombia, Bogota, Medellin, and all that, and I was sending blow up here. The first thing we initiated was to get a transportation and distribution out of it, but a transportation system from Colombia up here to the U.S. So this Jahiliyyah, of course, so that we would cut the Colombians off in Colombia, pay them spreads of money, and we take the blow up here so that we could control the outlet, right, up here. I mean, this is the way of thinking. We always thought like that. That's what helped us evolve in crime. Well, we wouldn't call it crime. We call it evolution of the Negro. And somebody peeped what we was doing. So pretty soon, after they got us out of the way and put us back in the penitentiary, the main thing the government did was to solidify that Colombians was in charge of producing, manufacturing, right, transporting, except through Mexico. They tried to use them for a while to fight against the Colombians, but the Colombians held power. I'm talking about goodness, power, and all kind of things. Just hold on a minute. And the Negro doing something for a change, where he's not the recipient and doing on a small level, like Negro dope dealers now. And when anybody try to break out of that, like when your homeboy from here, Rayful Edmonds, went to the penitentiary, right? He went in there and hooked up with all the Colombians, and guess what? They gave his mama a case, they gave him a few cases, then they start driving in on the Colombians. Why? Because if niggas get control in one city first of distribution, it's going to spread. Spread from D.C. to Baltimore, Philadelphia, it's all over, right? It'll be on the West Coast in 20 minutes. That is the distribution. I've looked at that most of my life, and when we came to Islam, we saw that the Muslims, everybody that accepted Islam was mostly African American, and the big programs, and everybody thought of Islam as African American, right, in those days. We find in later years, as the immigrant community have evolved, bigger programs, better organized everything. All the Masjid around the country, big, beautiful centers, are mostly immigrant. If you go to an immigrant community, you'll find that the people in that masjid love Europeans. I just put it the way it is, white folks. Y'all been on the internet lately? They just love it, right? And then wherever, like if you take the Islamic Center of Maryland, one brother was out there and he'd have a van parked in the parking lot for years, and pretty soon it started fitting with the community. The guy got to move that. So it's the internal community start arguing. Well, he's a good brother, and da-da-da-da-da. They're saying it's an eyesore. What it is everywhere where African Americans was attending a big center, or any center, they would try to give us a bad reputation of beggars, thieves, malcontents, more trouble than they're worth. And later on, I told Imam Jamil, I said, man, I was in Iowa the other day, and the people was asking me, where can we go and discover or talk to the good people about Islam? And I said, go to the penitentiaries. Yeah, it's full of, brothers. They said, no, we mean the good people. I said, oh, okay. The white people. I'm not making racist statements. I'm just standing. The Imam Jamil, he told me this. This might have been 81, 82. He says there's a memo on that from the big shots. There's a memo. He had saw the memo. The memo read like this: avoid the Negro community. They're too much trouble. They have too small a value. For the value that you get out of them, it's too much input. Right? I'm just telling you, from our 40, 50 years of being directly involved in the Islamic movement here in America. So, what am I reading to? وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ قَوْلًا مِمَّا دَعَا إِلَى اللَّهِ وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا وَقَالَ إِنَّنِي مِنَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. Who is the best in speech? Those who call people to Islam, work righteous deeds, and say, I'm a Muslim. And now about these ayats or signs, some people don't pick up on stuff. But last week, in that parking lot, when I was going in the wrong car, look at here, you wouldn't believe it. It looked just like the other van. But the lady didn't call the police, right? She didn't call the police, and we out there a long time. We didn't, right? We wasn't out there no 2-3 minutes. Pulling on the thing, and she looking. Finally, she kind of must have picked up on it. It's the wrong van. I said, my goodness. That was an ayat for me. That before you go to California, right, which was getting ready to do, you stay here and hook up the things that you should hook up. And therefore, this is the first khutbah that will be a little bit different. وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ قَوْلًا مِمَّا دَعَا إِلَى اللَّهِ. Call people to Allah and work righteous deeds and say, I'm indeed a Muslim. So that means we'll use Oakland first, and we'll use here together. Both of these places are dreams deferred. Dreams deferred, not vanished. But when we came here in 89, then about a year we bought the little building over on 8th Street, and then a few years over after we bought this building, and then we bought property next door down there. So this was the start of a physical community. But the United States government wasn't having it. Many of the people that came were good people. We're at the best school in D.C. Our children now are graduating in the highest numbers. They went to our school right here. They're not just graduating in social service, they're graduating in engineering. Sisters, does anybody remember? They're graduating right this minute in engineering and some of the best universities in the U.S., right? And every time the bell rang, the school is over, everybody try to run off and head on home or run up and down the street. We used to have to put people out here. Say, hey, y'all got to go home. They would hang out down there. Does anybody remember that? They would hang out down there till we said, y'all have to head on in. Well, my mama ain't here. Well, catch the bus. It's time to go. The bell, and I'd ring the bell. You got to go. Of course, they didn't want me for the principal after a while, but these are good people because the kind of school I wanted, and I was the principal technically, was a school where I would have enjoyed going, which wasn't hardly none of them. So I say the kids that make all the trouble, what I would do, and if I was the principal, I'd take them for a ride around town, buy them ice cream cones and stuff. And that's what I was doing. So the people was mad at me as the principal because they would bring a little discipline problem. I said, yeah, remember, let's make a run or two. We'd ride around. You want ice cream or two? So I think I was encouraging bad behavior. Hey, man, you could ride around with the Imam. He'd take you, get some ice cream. So the kids was lined up, to mess up, throw the book on it, whatever they could do to get out of class. So then the teachers rebelled and said, you're the principal, but you're the cause of rebellion and bad behavior. I said, well, that's the way it goes. Then they wanted to expel a little boy for bringing a butter knife to school. Now he wrote, imagine Muslims clean shaven, not clean shaven, but nice haircut and everything. And they ride in the bus with Negroes. Nothing wrong with Negroes. Our family is all Negroes. But them ruffians would see a nice guy like that with manners, and they would be threatening to him. So, our little old brothers started strapping down and what have you, and they got caught down there with a little butter knife. This was a real butter. Well, it was semi-sharp, but it couldn't hurt nobody. So they said, we're going to expel. I said, expel. So I stopped that. Then the other guy, their parents owed about $3,500, something on it. So I said, we can't expel a kid because they got dumb parents, right? So I paid the thing, for them. And the teachers was all in uprising. I said, you can't expel a kid because he got dumb parents, right? Just because of money. Now, Western school definitely don't get rid of you. I'm going to get to the point in a minute because actually I'm getting a little tired of standing up here running my mouth. Here's the thing, dear believers. We started a community here and started a community in Oakland for certain reasons. Because of the Islamic movement and wanting to hear the adhan called and the people coming around and what have you and living close by. But when we say dream deferred, that means in this process of evolution, we have to set that aside, not back, for a small reason. First of all, we have to stop burning up money. Oakland has a tax base, and here I think we're spending $10,000 a quarter. Okay, so we have to change that. But what does this dream deferred mean? Dream deferred mean that I just go straight to the point. So when I go out to Oakland, I'm going to do something about out there. Number one, some of the people we've been talking about is tattletales and snitches and what have you. We're going to bring them together. We didn't talk to people about this in many ways. But Oakland, like here, well, first I do here. So we're going to ask some of the people here to collaborate. And this would be a multifaceted community. And we're glad some of the brothers came to visit today. And you can ask some of the brothers here. One of our brothers, Imam, from another community, we used to go out to Lorton. And I'm talking about Amilu Salihat, doing good deeds and how it feels good to do good deeds. And so I had a little old penitentiary card, so I could go in and out of the penitentiary. And when I used to go over there, in fact, one of the brothers is here today, just if you think I'm lying. When I used to go over there, I used to push carts in there. And it would have oil, pounds of oil, best oil in town, no doubt about it, pounds of it. All the books you could name, Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim. Because when I used to go out there to Lorton, man, I went through, I think they had 6 sale houses, and they had one, from my memory, I might be, they had one number 7 open for mobility, but the other shacks was like screened-in dungeons. And I've been to penitentiaries all my life. I've been to Leavenworth, Lompoc. I've been in the hardest penitentiaries in the United States. And when I was at Lorton, I was up on one tier. And so there was a TV antenna hanging out the window with a little piece of tinfoil or something. So I was just giving out Qurans and talking to the brother. I said, yeah, how long you been here, bro? I said, yeah, I did a little time in Leavenworth, and well, everywhere, really. He said, I've been here 10 years. I mean, he's been on that tier. In that room, with that raggedy TV. And those places didn't go out hardly out of those 6 cell, they had 6 cell blocks, right? Maybe Brother Ali's here, he remember better than I do. But number 7, right, was for mobility. And I looked at the brother, and I ain't had it easy, And I almost cried. I said, man, I've spent 10 years, and you've been on this in this doggone room with that raggedy TV. You know what I mean? And then the other part of the penitentiary, they had another setup where they had to know, because the law said you got to get so much sunshine, if anybody want to correct it. So they have these regular cells, and then outside of your cell, They got another cell with that strong metal wire that might as well be, they still got that stuff out there. So they following the law. You got to get so much sunshine a day so you can go from your cell out in that thing. And the way they treat us in the United States is so brutal and so miserable, it's beyond belief. I'm going to get to the point in a minute. But right now, I gave a khutbah maybe about 2 weeks ago. Y'all might remember. I said, I said, because I study winter and summer warfare. I said, the winter's coming to Europe, and what we ought to do is have our brothers have pictures of white women on the beach in California and in Florida. Does anybody remember that? Y'all don't remember that? Wait a minute. Nobody remembers that? Oh, good. Everybody remember. I thought, so anyway. Now think of this. White women on the beach, right? And they done blew up the pipeline. Now, if y'all look in the newspaper and you look at the time, right after we gave that speech here, within a few hours, they blew up that pipeline, in the Russian pipeline. You could just check it. Now, if you were to go back and look at our record, strategic alliances, Iran, Iraq, Syria, does anybody remember that stuff? Look. What we've been saying here has been so on the money that it makes boss man mad. That's why the other day when I said certain things about the energy crisis, the next day a little spot was broke into, money taken, notebooks, that could be a strategic blunder because I lived right there on the corner. And so it's right at, I'm not saying the brothers next door, I'm not saying nobody, but it was a strategic blunder because people could go in and get the money and then we come out of here with, donations, right? And then we sit there and count the money and then we put some of it away. But they could figure that the nigga got to be leaving something in there. And so they came in. And but not only, here's why I know it wasn't a Negro. Because of the notebooks and that other stuff that has nothing to do with Negroes, nothing to do with value. They take all of those. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to get back to writing our As-Sabiqun, and we're going to contribute to the movement that we're involved in today. The other thing, and I'll wrap it up in a minute, when we go back to California, we're going to do what we can to meet with Mukhtar. He's the same guy who busted us upside the head. And, sold, y'all probably, anybody see, sold one of our $1 million properties out there, because the government helped them, They're the same ones that stole, it was $100,000 that we had in one account for the family going to school and all that. They took that. Okay, so we go to court and sue them for several million. But people are paying attention to us. Whether you do or not, the government is paying attention to us. Now, I want to say this also. These things that happen are not bad. They're good. They're signs of your credibility. So here's what we're going to do there, and here's what we're going to do here. We're going to reorganize what we do here. And as good as some people listening, we're going to ask that we reform our brotherhood, but not under the name of As-Sabiqun or nothing like that. And we have both or most type of people here. We have people here who understand the Negro and what to do with him if you get out of line, right? And we have people, graduates from Howard and all of that kind of stuff. They may belong to this fraternity, that fraternity, they may whatever, but all under the banner of Islam. DC, deferred reality, deferred vision. We might have thought it was our vision, our hope to come here, Masjid, business schools, and, build that type of community. But it just might have been what Allah wanted us to do, to come here and face the whole governmental spectrum. Whether you know it or not, we've done that here. We've outsurvived any historical African American movement in the United States. Nobody, and I'm not bragging, I'm just telling you the facts. Nobody has survived as long and kept focused, right? And not given up and not got diverted than we have. But we got to find a way to go, right? And it's on us. Why is it on us? You think about it. This crackpot is starting wars all over the world so he can make more money, right? Inflation exploded through the roof, and he giving billions of dollars to everybody overseas, and he mad about your children and students getting $20. Isn't that right? Am I lying? Yeah. He don't want you to get 50 cents, but he'll send $1 million an hour overseas. But we're not by ourselves. See, Boss Man is a dog. So Boss Man blew up the pipeline between Germany and Russia so that Western industry, German industry, goose-stepping industry, Mercedes-Benz, BMWs, all that, they clicking, would have to pay so much money for energy, right, that they talking about sending their industry here to where? The United States. Am I lying there? Right? That's what they're saying every day. So now, we not only have the third world, Islamic world, but guess what? Boss Man is so greedy, so voracious. Hey man, he's now destroying, well, technically it's destroyed. Europe, people are already, did anybody read the news? They're already in the street. Wait till the next few weeks after this nice weather go away. When it starts freezing up, right? Economy slows down, energy costs more, and then Saudi Arabia today, I don't know if anybody heard it. Did anybody hear it? They just did what? Zzz, with energy prices. So look, this is a big opportunity for Islam, for Negroes, and I'm going to just tell you, we blew everyone in the past. And I'm telling you from experience. When I went down to South America myself, I was already experienced in, they say, dope dealing and all that. And strategic. So when I went to South America, this is in the beginning. Now, I don't say this. This is what the people said I was thinking. How do they know what I was thinking? They said my idea, and it kicked off good. This is in the early 70s, 71, 72. Cut off the Colombians in Colombia, right? We take care of, they could help with transportation, but we take care of transportation and distribution of blow here in the United States. It was working fine. Boy, it was payday, big payday. But it didn't last. Then eventually the Colombians got relatives that they sent up here and they got all that. And by 75, the Colombians had taken over cocaine distribution in the United States. And the Negro was a customer. Next in line was Mexico, because I used to live in Mexico too. So in the early days, drugs would come from South America, Colombia, then Culiacan. Any of y'all ever heard of Culiacan? Culiacan in Sinaloa, where you have a lot of the fights right now, Tres Rios and all that. Well, I used to live there too. I mean, so I had a little experience. Anyway, if you notice in the last 2 years, there's fights between Mexican cartels, Colombian cartels. So the government swoops in and say, hey, you Mexicans, y'all paying too much to the Colombians. Why don't you just demand better? Anyway, they started them fighting. They're killing everybody down there. That's Boss Man. Now, Boss Man is the main dope dealer. That's why they had 15 battalions of U.S. troops in Colombia. And half of them are still there. Why? Because the guerrilleros, the guerrillas, was cutting into the cocaine distribution. It's a few years back. And now cutting into the cocaine distribution networks, they could buy weapons, arms, and all other kind of munitions. And during the time of Pablo Escobar, they brought in a extradition treaty, y'all might remember, and Pablo Escobar told them, I'll pay off the Colombian debt. At that time, the Colombian debt was $4.5 billion. Anybody remember that? He said, I'll pay it off. You just scratch that treaty with the U.S. extradition. Okay. I'm glad I was not fully successful because I wouldn't be standing here talking to you today. But I'm glad that I got the experience to find out what the game was about. Here's the main thing that I found out. Nobody wants the Negro in any position of power at all. Nobody. Has anybody else run into that? Nobody wants to see you in any position of power. So I'm going to skip real quick and I'm going to tell you this. What we plan to do here, and we got some people here today, we're going to take our latest resources, and we got people that was here. وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ قَوْلًا مِمَّنْ دَعَا إِلَى اللَّهِ وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا وَقَالَ إِنَّنِي مِنَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. And then it goes on to say, first it says work righteous deeds. Say I'm proud to be a Muslim. But then it says can good and equal be the same? Or can good and evil be the same? And it may be between you and he that was enemies, be as though you were warm bosom buddies. I know I saw an old picture of It was the Westers by Geronimo. And Geronimo had a dream about his people being on the train. And pretty soon, the government brought all the Indians together, and they told them all, okay, y'all get on that train. And then they had the other Indians, the government Indians, right, with stripes all on their thing. He said, y'all too, y'all drop your weapons and get on the train. What were they doing? They were sending them to Florida. They're Arizona Indians. You know the difference between Arizona and Florida? One's a desert. You get used to living out there. And Florida, swamps, alligators, everywhere, right? Totally different environment. So the people would die and drop like flies. So all of us was on the train together, and Geronimo, one of them said to Geronimo, this is just a movie now, said, you guys, I'm going to use American term, you guys were snitches and reservation Indians and working for the white man and da-da-da-da-da. Geronimo said this, he said, wherever we're going, we're going to need each other, right? So this is the little contribution I'm making here in D.C. and in Oakland. So Mukhtar was the same guy that, well, he didn't do it, because I grabbed hold to him, was holding him down, and he looked like a little mouse. But when I was holding him, I got both hands on him, and I can't let go, because then he can tussle. But his wife, she was weighing about 300 at that time, had one of them rods, and that's why he was busting me up, bang, bang. One of the brothers asked her, did you stay conscious all that time? I said, sure, I was conscious. Well, when I was over at GW, they would ask you something every morning. And I got hip to them because I would face the wall. They got a chart on the wall that has your name, right? It has George Washington Hospital that had a date. So they would ask me, what's your name? Of course, I couldn't remember. But I look on the wall. I said, my name is Clarence Reeves. What's the day? Why, heck, it's January 26th. Of course, I didn't know that, but that's what it said on the wall, right? And where are you at? Well, it says GW. I said, I think I'm in George Washington Hospital. So they'd scratch it. That boy got his memory back. Because I didn't have no memory back. One of the brothers from here is here today, came to visit at that time. And I imagine I looked so pitiful that the brothers didn't want to come. But all I did is looked at him and I said, what did I say? Optimism, right? That's exactly what I said. You got to be optimistic. Now, I was sitting there with my head busted, didn't know what time it was, didn't know what day it was, but that's all I could remember, optimism. I had forgotten. I didn't know how to pray, right? I didn't remember not one verse of Quran or nothing. But our policy here is kindness, optimism. So it's kindness, optimism, and what is the other thing? Humor. That's how I make fun of the white man all the time. Oh, you think being mad at it? The boss man, especially the Yahoo, he don't like no niggas making fun of him. And all this is happening right now because 2 weeks ago I said, but first I did two things. One, remember I did the thing with the spray, all over the face and all over my hands. And there was somebody beating on the door. So I opened the door. I said, "Oh, monkeypox." So I had to phone, just the stuff for the hotcakes down there, milk foam. I put it all over my face and had it on my hands. So I believe that Negro, unless he got the word, is still on the move. Because I come to the door, and then I waited, and I said, monkeypox. And I could imagine he looked in that door, standing 1 foot from me, and I got that white whipped cream. Yeah, that's what it was, whipped cream. So that's humor. And then but what I said about Boss Man, that happened. That exactly happened. You can't mess with Russians in winter warfare. They got rid of Napoleon. Y'all remember that in history? Stalingrad, they got rid of the Germans. Serious battle force, but that Russian winter whooped them bad. Now, Russians are skilled at winter warfare. So what they wanted to do by blowing up that pipeline, and the reason I'm telling y'all so that y'all will know what I'm going to wrap up in the next 4 or 5 minutes. What I want you to know is we have not been at the table, but I want to arrange it so we don't miss this one. You got to have niggas at the table. When the world is divided up, you don't have to worry about anything. All you got to do is know that America is a downhill runner, self-destructive, right? So Latin America is against it. The whole world is against it. But now, like Boss Man from here and the Zionists wanted to colonize Africa, look what they're doing to Europe. This year, they're going to break Europe's back. What they do to us, start trouble all over the world, riots and confusion. That's going to happen in Europe because that cold weather is going to shake them. Everybody know that. It's so-called winter warfare, but this is going in reverse. Within the next month, they're going to be freezing to death because they blew up that pipeline. And I'm going to tell you, you can believe it or not, you check what I said here a couple of weeks ago, and you check the time that pipeline was blown up. What happened was we made fun of the white man, the boss man. And his CIA is slipping. They didn't have time to think long range. Because when you tease somebody, you get them throwing punches all haywire and everything. That's what happened. I'm just telling you. Now, you may think, now that Negro up there and went crazy, but you just check the facts. I asked a few people here. This stuff that we're talking about, one of the sadnesses that I used to have was niggas don't get into nothing till it's too late. First, I was just thinking about the dope game. Because I got in, y'all saw the pictures and everything. I got in early on all of them. And when we kind of come to the conclusion that heroin was bad for black people, all we did was switch one white for another, right? Because what everybody say, cocaine is almost healthy, right? Y'all don't remember that though. Because see, heroin is addictive. Cocaine is not addictive unless you hit that pipe, boy, then you washed up. Here's what I'm saying. Everything we've been doing for decades have been strategic. Everything we did in those days. And we stopped that when we accepted Islam. We call it wandering in the wilderness. Everything that we've been doing in life has been strategic. And what I'm going to say right now is strategic. And I'll be brief. So for here in D.C., and we're going to ask some of our friends that might be present today, that we combine forces right here, not separate forces, and we could shuffle everything around we want. Because we need for this to work, not only the college folks, flattery type, but we need part of that management team is the Negro that's been through that Negro style in D.C. is as about Negro as you're going to get, I tell you. But that is organized and know what to do at that time. Because when this takes off, it's going to be exactly like what happened on the Hill several years ago. Does anybody remember that? They started a little tussle with us so that we would come and deal with them. I told everybody, no, don't do nothing. Because we got to come here 5 times a day, right? And they don't never have to come until you're there. Here's the point. We didn't come here to kill Negroes. And the proof of it is when I was attacked in Oakland. Now, does anybody remember the newspaper article from our picnic when we was driving back home, my daughter and my wife, and the PG County police was attacking a brother on the freeway, right next to the freeway? Does anybody remember that? That's been a while back. Okay, I'm glad this memories is working. Okay, so what I did, now this is the PG police. At that time, that mean they was white. It was 20. So they was beating the brother. The guy they was beating, I tell you his name, he was one of the Proctor family. His name was Danny Proctor. Yeah, this is a family that intermarries with each other. They are light-skinned, right? Y'all remember the names? Maybe I'm... Okay. Do y'all remember these names I'm talking about? The Proctor family, okay. When I looked over at the guy, we driving back down 295, and I looked over there, and I pulled up and stopped. Now, I didn't know whether this was an Italian or somebody. I could see his hair, I could see his arm. He looked like somebody else. But the police, they had him by his arms, and one was at the door side, holding his feet, and they was whooping that brother to death. Boy, they was, can you imagine? The PG County police was whooping that boy to death. So I pulled up and stopped, and I walked over to the police and grabbed both of the polices. I grabbed their batons. I didn't grab them. So they were shocked. They stopped, looked at me. They didn't believe it. It took them a minute to get their head together. This is a nigga actually grabbing our baton. So one of the police pulled out his pistol, and I took a step back, and I got lucky because when I stepped back, the curb was there, right? And I didn't see it, and I stepped off the curb, so I fell backwards on the ground. At this time, it was a Negro police with a half jerry curl sitting right there watching. So when I got to the police station here, I told the police, I say, you're a big old cracker, 6 feet 2 or 3. I say, why don't you pull off that stuff and me and you can get together right quick, right now. So they gave me a charge of, whatever they call it. Here's the point I'm making. When I was assaulted in Oakland, it was not fear of fighting back or resisting or repaying. Here's why we didn't repay. I don't know if y'all heard any of the old lectures on black power and all that, but the method have always been is for the government to get niggas to fight each other, right? That's why I've always been against it. I've always been against it, and I'll do anything and everything I can to make sure, and I tell people, stay focused on boss man and the Zionists. That's your enemy. Don't let them sidetrack you with Negroes. So when Mukhtar and them, they wasn't playing with me out there in Oakland, and they know they had full right to do it. They beat a nigga till his head, we say, rope like oatmeal. Tell the truth, did my head rope look like, top of my head. Why didn't I do nothing? Is it because I was afraid? Well, I wasn't afraid of the police that's got the guns and they got a reputation, PG County in those days, for shooting niggas. It wasn't that. It was a principle. And what we're moving towards today is a principled movement. And I'm glad some of the people are here because this is our chance, and this is our opportunity. But as we used to say, niggas have to be big. Right now, if you want a seat at the table, if you want to manage anything where they won't blow up your children, right? Because they're talking about atomic warfare, right? You know of any atomic bomb that'll blow up white folks, Mexicans, and it'll miss niggas? Raise your hand. You don't know of nothing that they don't have none of them? Well, that means your life is in the hands of crackpots that will send trillions of American dollars overseas, right, to give Ukrainians to fight Russians, right? And you lose. You lose everything, and then they'll jump up and holler if you give them, you get a Negroes $5. They say, oh, this is the economy. Da, 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 da. Now, here's what I'm saying. Look, this next step, we're going to have to be unified and organized. And now, this is the Muslims' opportunity to step in for the whole black community. It can start here, but we're going to start definitely here. We're going to try in Oakland. We can't lose nothing. So that's why we're asking, and you might say, well, you can't do it. They can't do that. Well, look, we came here in '89 with an old station wagon, Fiat, with some books in it that we came from Canada, California, Canada, then here. June 23rd, '89. By '91, we were opening the Masjid up on 8th Street that we had paid for. And then before we came over here, we had a flyer that said, I don't know if any of y'all remember it, Masjid al-Islam, we're going to raise $200,000. Does anybody remember that? $200,000 from that little shack over there. And people used to pack in there. And then we came over here. And when we came over here, we have technically bought everything that was left on the hill. Like we paid $10,000 in taxes because da-da-da-da. But we own half of the hill over there, 5045, 5021, 5025, over there on 8th Street. But we're going to dispense of it very soon so we don't have to pay taxes. But our deferred dream is that the government got in our way of building a friendly, self-serving, self-motivated community here to do good. Well, what we're asking us during this time is rededicate to doing good. Doing good makes you feel good. When you go out and raise money and get boxes of money, but you feed people and they're happy, accented brothers, that feels better. And I'll talk about what we're going to have at Howard later or next week. Look. So I'm going out to California and soon and restructure out there. But while we're here, we want to reorganize ourselves. And we want to get back to thinking big and beyond ourselves. And we want to think of the international and the universal Islamic community. And we want to see ourselves in that and what we could do. Bigger than during the last times before. You know, that was the time a few years back when they came to demonstrations here. They saw the men in black, they used to call us, right? Y'all remember that? Anybody remember that? That was actually happening. They would give the babies, right? They would pass babies up. If we was on the stage, the white folks, to take pictures with their baby and the Negroes standing there in black. Am I lying? I mean, just so people see this stuff sound like the nigga get up here, he didn't have a drink or two, now he up there talk. I'm telling you the truth. I'm telling you the truth. But now it's bigger than that. Now we got a crackpot on the loose. Boss man and went crazy. You got to remember, he's thinking about losing his power to China and Russia. And that's running him crazy. That's why whatever he do, it don't make sense. All right. So therefore, we missed the civil rights opportunity. We missed the opportunities to manage big sport teams and all of that. We missed the opportunity to actually control the drug trade, although we were the main consumers. I did the best I could. Don't think I'm lying. And did all right, you know, as far as wealth. And I never dealt the murderous thing, you know, just marijuana, you know, cocaine. In those days, cocaine wasn't crack, you know, where you go crazy. It just blow. You be blowing all right. You blow all your money. Your money would be long gone. White folks' money, nigger money, all money. But you'd still be sane. Because you'd have to be a trillionaire to buy enough cocaine to... By the way, just a little story on the side. When I went back to Columbia in later years in '78, not to do business, but to visit some of the old friends, all of my friends was living in the south of Tehran, not the north. I mean of Bogota. And I said, ¿Qué pasa? You know, what happened? It's a bacirola. Base, you know, you have cocoa leaves, then you have base, like paste, base. Then from the base you go to cocaine hydrochloride. Now, in the U.S., they would get pure cocaine, then they would take it back to base. You remember baking soda. I tell y'all, remember what's the name them would get burned up? What's the comedian's name? He'd get burned up every other week. Richard Pryor. That, you know, because he was using ether and it burned, whoosh, lighted, it burned. And that's how he got burned up all the time. But anyway, so I said, man, the Negro is paying this much money for a base up there. And so, at that time, cocaine was about $5,000 a key, and Basse was $3,000, so it's cheaper. I said, man, the Negro is going to go broke. fast. All them Negroes got big, selling heroin and all that, living up in the hills. Some of my friends said we slid off that hill in a hurry. But here's the point. I'm going to try to wrap it up. But I'm going to continue this next week, and I'm going to continue it. Here's the outline, dear believers. The peace pipe is going to be passed all around. That includes to Mukhtar. That includes to Abdul Malik. That includes everybody that had given bayah, right? And they disappeared. So when we go back to Oakland, those are the first people we're going to call. And our message is this. The time that we're living in is too important, right? You got to tell the Negro, your wives are at stake, your children are at stake, and they don't have the means to defend themselves, right? That's between what we used to call big niggas and little niggas. Little niggas always want to snatch the little money and run. Big niggas don't do that. They know the big thing is hold on. And they used to refer me, of course, as a big nigga. Now, that's all right, you know. But we never went for the small stuff. That's the same thing in Islam. I'm requesting that we go for big. If we don't go for big in the United States, the sissified, sweetie-pied people, and y'all saw our brothers, right, all of them at that meeting in Baltimore, what did they say? We're despondent, we're distraught, right? We're heartsick because the foreigner's not paying attention to us. That's what the Negro said. They're absolutely crazy. We don't do that. What we're saying is we have to, and if you just have to hear the name, African Americans, the Negro, representing Islam in America, we have to be at the seat this go round to not only have an effect on which way the thing is moving, but to protect our family. You got to protect your own wife. You got to protect your own children. Other people ain't going to do it for you. And that's what I want to say. We can do it here today. And there's a few people here that I'm speaking directly to that have been around. We need a group of balanced people. The literary hoity-toity type people. And we need penitentiary-minded, grew up and raised in, that have the discipline and the management skills, right, to walk through all of this. And like any management is, when something is needed, troubleshooter to solve that. And that's what we wanted some of our people here today. Look, and I hate to use this old language, but niggas got to get big and got to get big in a hurry and got to get big for themselves, because the white man and nobody else is going to protect you. They'll blow up everybody, including your mama, right? You know, if the cracker will blow himself up, he'll blow up your. If you living here in D.C., where you think the bomb's coming first? Tell the truth. This is the District of Columbia, and you won't go out and go to Montana, right, where you got a chance of surviving. No, you're going to stay your behind right here in D.C., and that's the first bomb comes here, right? Tell the truth. You got to act like you know what I'm talking about. I'm saying, personally, I'm willing to overlook all the stuff that handkerchief-headed Negroes did in California and that the clown Negroes did here, and they continue to do this job, because this job is bigger than us. And I'm reaching out to y'all to jump big. You got to think big. You can't, this little money on the table, I snatched that for myself. You can't do that. This is that period And it comes every so often in history. And now it come to us. We skipped all the other stuff to get here now. And the lecture that I'm giving today is not given anywhere in the United States. It's definitely not being given to you. They done bought all the coons for a package of chewing gum and some French fries. Right? Nobody is talking like this in the United States and visibly nowhere else. But is this what's needed? What I'm thinking is Allah giving you a chance. You done missed everything throughout history. And then they make fun and laugh at you. Hey, I'm sorry. They ain't making no fun of me. I might be dead. I'm making fun of them. That's why I come to the door, monkeypox with whipped cream on. But the nigga ain't stopped. You can find him somewhere that tracks his shoes still running. Right? Cause that's just me. That's my way of dealing with it. Have fun, right? Now other people, I'm telling you, right now I'm having fun. And right now, when the Negroes steal our boxes of money and all of that stuff, it's still almost fun. It's almost fun. Why? Because if we got it once, we'll get it again. And I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to close without bragging. There's a lot of people that ain't never been broke. And I said that. And Mukhtar and them, the government gave them a thing, and they jumped right into my account, and they come out with $100,000. But guess what? We're going to California, and we're inviting Mukhtar, Abdul Malik, and all the Negroes to a sit-down. And Hashim Alauddin, all of them. These are people that had something to do with beating poor Malcolm's grandson to death with a baseball bat. These are the cruel niggas. I'm telling you, they know, people here know that. But just like Geronimo said on the train, he said, well, we're going to need each other. Ain't nobody on the Negro side but us, I'm telling you, and most of us not on each other's side. This is our niyyah. This is our intention. We're going to start here. Before we leave here, we go to California. We're inviting all the double crosses. Well, we're going to start using them same kind of names anymore. All the dear brothers and sisters in California, whether they beat me upside of the head or not. Don't the Quran always talk about forgiveness and stuff? We're going to make it look easy. I'm not bragging. I'm going to tell you, you can't forgive no nigga bust you upside the head, can you? Anybody raise your hand? Just tell the truth. Raise your hand if you. No, I'm going to do it. Here's why. Because I'm a bad nigga. Yeah, we used to say it in Jahiliyyah because we sold the most dope, right? Stay up all night, snorting blow. Yeah, I'm the baddest nigga in the United States. I'm pimping holes and slamming Cadillac doors. Right? Niggas talking. Now, I'm talking trash to boss man. Yeah, boss man, the little old handful of money you stole from me last week, you're going to drive a truck trying to dump it back in the yard because that money going to catch on firecracker. Yeah. Hey, we just talking trash. Why? We've been talking. Ain't no sense of stopping now, right? The last thing I want to say, and we'll elaborate on this later, dear believers, the Negro can do anything. He just never tried. He can outrun everybody. Do you know white folks got to shoot the ball and the nigga can jump up without even trying? Tell the truth. I saw a video less than 15, 20 years ago of Michael Jordan when he was young. Man, that guy would run and he'd turn sideways and upside down and drop that thing in the basket. right? Hey, we as a people can do almost anything. What we do is we do it for everybody else. Now, I'm asking some of the people who are here today, they've been knowing us a while. When we'd go out to Lorton, we'd take the whole thing. You know what stopped us? A Negro out there, the police. He said, you can't bring all that stuff in here, big bottles of oil, you know. They'd be lucky to get a little smidget. We was bringing pounds and 2 and 3 pounds, and I'd come in the back door with a cart full of Sagi, Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, right? And Muslim soap, anything you wanted. And I had to push the cart into the back door of the penitentiary, right out there, Lord, and that's people who see. So the Muslims, okay. I'm going to move toward a close with this. Okay, everybody's different. Some people like a lot of material around them, you know. Like I'm a little different. I sleep over there on the floor and everything right now and been doing it and going right back to doing it. Because I had a chance to have more money than probably most people ever see. Getting big barrels of it and made sure it was spread around to the community. Buying people Cadillacs and everything. They didn't have Benzes, you know, they had them, but they were, okay. None of that feels as good as this Islam. None of it, none of it, none of it, none of it. So nobody have to tell me, ooh, you ought to keep certain things for yourself. I don't need certain little old mat. We'll get an old little old mat to sleep on the floor. Okay. And the other thing, the last thing, dear believers, you can get your courage together. It's your job. I'm talking to the brothers now. It's your job to protect your wives and children. They can't do it. They don't even know what the hell nobody's talking about. It's your job. And if you think boss man is not going to dump your behind, if you haven't read no history, does anybody know what happened to all the snitches when they done snitched on everybody, they ain't got no more use for them? Can anybody tell me what they do to them? They kill them or throw them, right, on the cell block with who? The same niggas they snitched on. Isn't that the way? Does anybody know that that's the way boss man works? I mean, am I lying up here? Okay. So we got a chance. And you think this is taking a chance. No, it's not taking a chance. Not doing it is taking a chance. I'm already 77 years old. I don't care if you pump at me or do what I mean. I ain't going to be around much longer. So maybe that's what, after what they started doing the other day, I said, we better go for it. And so I apologize for not asking you before, because we was working on community. But that dream is deferred. Deferred means that they put so many police in it that it diverts you. Okay, to be big, that means we have to, and I'm going to close out with this, we have to control our nafs. We have to control our desires for wealth, money. And you know, the hadith talks about women. You have to be in control of yourself. That's what I'm going to tell the Negroes in California. They're not in control or they're not. They don't believe in it. But I'm going to tell them anyway, because we can't lose nothing. They might feel like giving it a shot. But here, right here, we got a chance. We have a duty. And we have a responsibility. And if you bring optimism and focus, I'm telling you, and I'm going to close with this. When we came here to D.C., we came with an old Fiat station wagon and some books from Canada. We had sold $1,800 worth of books in Canada. And within a year and a half, we had bought cash money, A Street. Then we bought over here, right? This is way over 100,000 in those days. And then 8 pieces of property, we bought it cash money, right here. Other people are running around begging, I need a place for us to meet. Right? Okay, now we can do bigger and we can do better. So I'm asking you to join. And don't worry if you make boss man mad. He ain't gonna do nothing but beat you to death and throw you out of a car or something on the railroad track. That ain't no big deal. Better get run over by a railroad train and die in 2 seconds than to die a slow, rotten death that you watch your children, their mouth hanging out, and you watch your community pass away, right? It's better to die quick. It's just my opinion. So I'm asking everybody to participate in this. Aqulu qawli hadha wa astaghfirullah li wa lakum. Is that the first khutbah only? This is the second. Alhamdulillah. And we'll close with this. O Allah, we seek thy refuge from anxiety and grief, lack of strength and laziness, cowardice and niggardliness, being overpowered by debt and the oppression of men. O Allah, suffice us with what is lawful, keep from us what is prohibited, and with thy grace make us free from want of what is besides thee. O Allah, help us to rise to an honorable mention and a position. Help us to be not only rescue the lives of the people, but the world need rescuing now. The crackpots think they're getting ready to lose, and they're ready to blow up everybody and everything, right? And you and I sitting here motionless and powerless, right? You don't have no power to do nothing. They blow you up and keep right on moving to the next bomb, right? Why should we be victims of the rape-minded boss man, the destructive-minded Zionist, the criminal U.S. government? Why should we put our life in their hands? And that's the message. I'm going to close with this. That's the message we have for the Negroes here in California. Y'all trust everybody but yourself. Something wrong with you. I don't know what the white man took from you, but he took a big part of your brain. And next thing, he took your heart, because you can assault a Negro and not feel nothing about it. And when you think about assaulting the government, you start getting scared and looking around. Right? I'm telling you. Dear believers, we thank you very much. We excuse us for talking so long, but this time is getting close, and ain't nobody talking about it. Oh, it'll be here from now on. No, it won't be here from now on. We got to solidify our own position in this world. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.